We're on the verge of deer hunting season. In fact, this coming up weekend is the great Minnesota deer hunting opener. I always say in this state we've got two unofficial holidays, the deer hunting opener and the fishing opener. This is one of them. This is one of my favorite. And you know, as we get ready to go deer hunting, it's come to my attention that there's a lot of less deer hunting that's going to be going on this year, I think. A lot less doe tags are being given out, much more restrictive, including here in the lakes area. In fact, I think the only area you might be able to still take two deer is going to be up in the Two Inlets area. Pretty much most of the state is one and done, whether it's a lottery, a buck or a doe, or just a buck deer. Which got me thinking, at least urban areas like Detroit Lakes, we still seem to have a deer problem. Now, I know the DNR is doing this because we've had very harsh winters the last 2 years and the deer numbers are down. But if you talk to residents that live in the south end of Detroit Lakes, around the Kerfman Lake area, Deadshot Bay better known as, around the Long Bridge area, they've been dealing with deer problems for quite a while. In fact, one of the community gardens this year here in Detroit Lakes was decimated by deer that are living in the urban area. So what can be done about this? Well, like we said, it's deer hunting season, but a lot of the deer that are probably going to be shot are going to be outside of the city limits, although that's going to kind of narrow it down. Now, the city of Detroit Lakes does have a couple of areas that they allow people to hunt. In some of the areas of the industrial park that are a little more open, a little more wilderness, bow hunting is allowed there. You just got to get a hold of the city and talk with them, depending on the deer numbers, if they're high. And also the wastewater treatment area is another area of city property within the city limits that the city is trying to allow hunters to use in order to thin the deer herd. But that's not going to necessarily help the people in the south end of town. And last month, an actual driver hit a deer on the Long Bridge Road there that was hopping across. In fact, I was fishing there a few months ago and saw a deer cross the bridge right in front. Luckily, an angler down at the other end of the bridge waved down traffic, and a lady driving by in a convertible said, "Boy, thanks a lot, because if it wasn't for that person waving her down, she'd have never seen that deer," until unfortunately it was right on top of her windshield. So what can people do about this? It's gotten so bad, I know, that some people have resorted to using plastic flowers and other plastic ornamentation that should represent shrubbery because the deer won't decimate it, won't destroy it. Well, here in the city limits, it's actually not illegal to deer hunt with a bow and arrow, but you've got to follow all the rules and regulations as far as how far you got to be from a building, etc. And of course, following it into a neighbor's yard or a fellow person's property can be problematic in a rural or in an urban area. But that is an option. However, for people on the south end of the lake, because of how close the buildings are, I don't know if that's a viable option. So while the deer hunting numbers are going to be down this year as far as the number of deer hunters are going to be allowed to take, urban areas like Detroit Lake still have a real problem with the deer here. So what can we do about it? Is there an organization that can get together and maybe do a little bit of hunting? Can they team up with the city to thin the herd? I don't think the city would be against any of these ideas, but somebody's really got to bring it forth to them. And as far as if you've got deer decimating your garden now, it's not illegal to bow hunt them in your yard, provided that you have enough separation from other buildings, check with all DNR rules and regulations. But if you meet the guidelines, there's nothing that would bar you from it. But if it's still a problem, maybe then we got to start looking at some natural solutions. I know my father's got a very nice garden in the Twin Cities area. Lives next to a nature area, has a problem with deer. They decimate his grapes sometimes. The one thing he noticed, though, is when the dogs moved out of the house, he saw more deer. I don't know if the dog hair, dog dander, or just having animals around that scared him off. So I don't know if there are some other natural solutions people can look at as well. So despite the DNR saying shoot less deer because the numbers are down, people that got gardens in urban areas might disagree because their gardens are still getting decimated by the deer.